Here's what Mike Florio writes on ProFootballTalk.com. Salty Tua is, in the opinion of many, the best Tua. This offseason, some of that salt could be directed to the front office if a decision is made to delay the negotiation of a new contract with the Miami quarterback. And again, I'm of agreement here. Like, I think Tua waited this entire season. Mm-hmm. Everyone in his draft class has gotten their money. I think they better come to him quickly. And if they don't, you might see salty Tua. Last year, the Dolphins picked up the fifth-year option on Tua's rookie contract. It gives him a fully guaranteed salary of $23.17 million for 2024 with no security in 2025 or beyond. Last year, Tua didn't clamor for a new contract, even as other quarterbacks taken at the top of the 2020 draft, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, got massive second deals. And while Tua started every game and led the NFL in passing yards with 4,624 this season, the Dolphins sputtered down the stretch and beyond a Christmas Eve win over the Cowboys, failed to win a game against a good team all year. And now you watch the Cowboys and you don't even know if they were a good team. From Miami's perspective, the first question is whether to make a long-term commitment. And the second question is the price of it. What's fair and appropriate for Tua for a long-term deal? With the market at $55 million per year, does Tua get $30 million? $35 million? What would happen if he were available to any other team? Would they clamor or would there be crickets? For Miami, the approach might be to make a good but not great multi-year offer and to see whether he takes it. If he doesn't, they'll have the franchise tag for 2025, or they could use the transition tag at a lower one-year number while also preserving the right to match any other offer. The Dolphins also could let him hit the open market and see what happens. Really, what would happen? Much of that depends on what happens next year. Can he stay healthy for a second straight season? Can the Dolphins get farther than the first round? That's information the Dolphins might need before breaking the bank for a player who possibly has a hard ceiling on how far he can take this team.
My thing about this, Hawk, is that whole thing about a salty player. What does that even mean? If he plays for $23 million next year and he's upset about $23 million, then you franchise him for whatever it's going to be, somewhere around $30 million, and he's still upset. If he doesn't play well at $23 million and he doesn't play well at $30 million, all he's doing is hurting himself.
Yeah, but it's not the not playing well. See, it's so what are you going to do with your team? Okay, you're the general manager. You're Chris Greer. I think I have a pretty good team. Mm-hmm. And I think that we'll get a couple of the kinks straightened out. We're going to go places. Tua, I got to see it for one more season from you. Okay. Well, I'm not coming to camp. I'm not doing any of the off-season stuff with all these great teammates that you have. I'm gonna make it a little more difficult for you to believe that we've got something special going into the 2024 season because I was patient. I was a good guy. Mm-hmm. I saw what Joe Burrow was getting. I saw what Justin Herbert was getting. And guess what I did? I went out. I wasn't injured for a single game. I led the league in passing. And now you want me to play good soldier again? I'll be out there. I'll play. I like playing football. I'm not doing any of the offseason stuff. I'm not doing any of the training camps. You're not going to see me. And then you have to decide when you're Chris Greer, okay, well, is that a risk I want to take? You know what I mean? So it's not like, hey, salty, I'm going to go out there and play poorly, but it's what effect does that have on the team in totality if your main cog isn't an active participant in getting you there?
Yeah, and I think, and I'm with you, though, because now the offseason workouts, the continuity, you have Tyreek there, you have Waddle there, you have Raheem there, you have the guys that are locked in, and now Tua's holding out. I honestly, and this is the ugly side of football, I don't think Tua's built like that.
Right, I don't either.
I think Tua's going to be there day one. He's going to, if it starts at 7, he's going to be there at 5:30, waiting for guys to walk in the locker room. I don't think you're going to big man me, and I don't think you're going to try to play hardball with me. So why am I going to pay you too soon? And I do think it's too soon for Tua because of the fact that if they would have beat Buffalo week 2 of week 18 of the season, Hawk. They would have played Buffalo again. Even if Buffalo beat them, they got knocked out round 1. But the game was 45-42. Tua would have showed me something.
And it was a home game because you won a game that you needed to win.
Tua would have showed me something. Tua, in my mind, is looking right now like what Dak Prescott kind of looks like. You can be an MVP candidate, but when crunch time comes, like we've seen with Dak for the last 3 years, when crunch time comes, playoff football comes, you're going to have a dud and your team's going to get knocked out, just like they did. The Cowboys just got knocked out and got ran off the field by Green Bay.
But Solana's brought it up a million times. Daniel Jones. What has Daniel Jones shown you? Dude got paid. And at some point, Mike Florio asked the good question. If he were to hit the open market, is he getting $50 million a season? I think he does. I think there are enough teams out there who are devoid of a quarterback who look at the leading passer in the league and they say, yeah, why wouldn't I give him what top-rated quarterbacks are getting right now?
Atlanta pops in my mind. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. You put Tua in Atlanta.
And again, it's not going to happen this season. He's under contract or whatever, but I'm just saying like that could be, hey, Bill Belichick, come down here, bide your time for one season because we're going to get you a quarterback. It might be Justin Fields. It might be Tua. What would you, Solana, like what would you do?
I don't know. And by the way, Daniel Jones is a playoff win.
No. I understand that.
I don't know, guys. Honestly, I don't know because, like Crowder, you were saying at the beginning of this hour, the question is not, hey, are these guys good enough? Is okay if you don't feel like they are, who's better than them? Who are you replacing?
That's the problem.
That's better than them. And I think Zach Gelb had told us that he envisions McDaniel and Tua together at this point. Where if you're going to move on from one, whether it's this offseason, which I don't think any of us believe that, or in the future, you're going to end up moving on from both of them. They're conjoined now at the hip. And I don't know. You look at Tua, and he's going to come to Chris Grier with his representation and say, look at these stats. Number one in passer rating, or number one in yards, number one in QBR, number one in all the number one offense. And you're not going to pay me? How are you not going to pay me?
And what was the biggest concern going into this season?
Health.
Injury.
Can he stay healthy?
Yep.
Right.
Hey, by the way, I don't think any quarterback was as healthy as I was during the entirety of the season. Like, man, I did everything you asked of me.
There's an argument on both sides. So like you said, is he worth $50 million a year? What he's done, especially postseason right now with the injuries, with the game played, no. But you bring up Joe Burrow in his draft class. Joe Burrow's been hurt a lot. You know what I'm saying? You bring up some of these other guys. Are they worth it? Daniel Jones is not. And it's funny because
Justin Herbert's been hurt.
You always say, Justin Herbert, Hawk, you always say it's a free market. You're worth what people will pay you.
Sure.
So if Daniel Jones is worth $40 million a year, yes, Tua is worth over $40 million a year. If the market bears it.
Easy.
But has he earned in his career a $278 million contract? That's where I can't say yes that he's earned $300 million, but he's better than Daniel Jones, who's making 40.
Yeah, it's simple, right? The stats show that he is worth what the market is willing to pay for his caliber of quarterback. There's no question about it. But if you're the general manager and you're the Miami Dolphins, you're Stephen Ross signing the check, okay, fine. The market dictates what he should be getting paid, but are we going to pay that? Because can he win a playoff game? Can he take you to the promised land? That's the question. And I don't think Chris Grier or any of us have the answer that we all want to have the answer, right? Like,
I ask you, would you rather have next season Russell Wilson or Tua?
Tua.
Solana?
With the Dolphins, right? With the roster and Mike McDaniel?
Yep.
It's Tua. It's Tua for sure. But that doesn't mean I love that answer. But yes, it is Tua.
Yeah. But you didn't know if you could make a baby until you made a baby.
Right. Peyton Manning couldn't win a Super Bowl until he won a Super Bowl.
That's what it was. It took him years to do it.
Yeah.
In Indy, with those stellar teams they had, he kept getting his ass whooped by Brady.
Yep.
And then he got that 1 year. So I don't want to say Tua is Peyton, but you don't know if you can win a Super Bowl till you win a Super Bowl. But still, if they would have competed against the Buffalo Bills week 18 and they competed
Baltimore,
in KC, I would have felt so much better about
there were myriad opportunities for Tua to do everything that he did this season and say, look, here's your playoff win, or here's your home playoff game, or like he did everything except this one really important thing, which leaves us now as the biggest loser franchise because Detroit was able to do what he was unable to do. I get it, man.
But Hawk, and I agree with you. Peyton Manning, Beasley last week brought up Drew Brees, right? Where it took him time. He didn't get to a Super Bowl to what, the 10th, 11th year, and then he became one of the best quarterbacks of this era. But if you're going to bring up those examples, you can also bring up, look at the Rams with Jared Goff. They got to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, who, by the way, is showing us he can be elite, right, Crowder? That's your boy all season long.
Yep.
But what did they do? They decided, hey, he's never going to take us to where we want to go. They trade for Matthew Stafford next year. They won a Super Bowl with somebody else. And again, I don't know who somebody else is right now. I don't think there is anybody else. But if you're going to use those examples of guys who take time to get to where you need them to get to, you can also point to a myriad of other examples of teams cutting bait with somebody that they believed in, but just didn't believe in enough, and go found their guy and won a Super Bowl anyways, or won a playoff game at least.
Chargers cut bait with Drew Brees to go to Phillip Rivers. Drew Brees goes on to be great, and Phillip went on. No Super Bowl, but Phillip went on to be great. You talk about Jared Goff in L.A. They lose, they get Matt Stafford, they win next year. Is there an upgrade out there that we get rid of Tua, he comes in, and that quarterback now leads the Dolphins to a playoff win or a Super Bowl? I'll just say appearance, AFC title, something like that.
Well, you tell me, is there someone out there who you think might be available? Because Justin Fields might be available. Russell Wilson will be available. So, you can't do, Patrick Mahomes. He's not available.
Yes.
So someone who might be available, do you see that upgrade out there?
No, it is not going to be a Carson Wentz. It's not going to be one of Nick Foles. Joe Flacco, what happened with the Browns? We saw the Texans wore their ass out the other night. There's not, to be honest, it will be a C.J. Stroud situation.
But he's not available. But you have to find someone in the draft.
Dre Make, Michael Penix Jr., Caleb Williams. It would have to be something of that nature. But do I want to get rid of a proven, who is a Pro Bowl quarterback this year in Tua?
Led the league in passing.
Led the NFL in passing, top 5 in all categories. Passing percentage amazing in totality. We know the last 3 weeks fell off. So do I get rid of him to bring in Drake May? I wouldn't. Michael Penix? I wouldn't. Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner? I just can't. I can't in my heart say those guys are going to be better than Tua. I don't think there is a rookie class quarterback, who I just named 5 of them. There's no way any of those 5 lead the NFL in passing next year. Tua just did it.
We will have this discussion solved by the 6 o'clock. I'm convinced that we will have the Tua situation solved by 6 o'clock tonight. So honestly, don't go anywhere, because we are on the cusp, the precipice of solving all this. I hope Chris Greer is listening. We will have a definitive answer for you on Tua by 6 o'clock tonight.
Really? Roll down the road with
not even going to be here at 6. Tape the last segment. I'm going to be out of here at 5:20.
Home at 6. Good luck, fellas.
Here's one of the responses that you get on the text machine when you talk about Tua, and I don't know how you can ever disprove this. Somebody texts in, with Tyreek Hill, Hockman would be top 5 in passing. And I don't know. It's a little bit.
Garrett Wilson is a top receiver in this league. He's a monster. Zach Wilson is terrible.
Right. Having a great receiver doesn't necessarily translate to having record numbers. In fact, it's why you see receivers getting angry at quarterbacks. The second half of the season, Stephon Diggs, right, and Josh Allen, they couldn't get things going right. So it doesn't guarantee it.
Devontae Adams. Why didn't Devontae Adams make the Garoppolo and all them boys in Vegas? Why didn't Devontae Adams, who I would say honestly just pure X receiver, is better than Tyreek? I know Tyreek can do a lot. He's fast as hell, but Devontae Adams right there with him. Why can't Devontae Adams make a quarterback when he plays with so many? That I see what they're saying. He did add to his numbers. He led the league in receiving.
Any quarterback is made better by having good weapons like that, but that's not a knock on the quarterback. Any quarterback is made better by having good weapons. The question is, how much better, right? So does Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle make Tua from the 20th best quarterback in the league to top 7? Top 5?
Yeah, I know.
There's
not a receiving core that makes a guy the number 1 passing yard leader in the NFL.
Right,
That's you.
Unless it is all yak, but it wasn't.
No.
It really wasn't with him. He was throwing deep.
Yards per completion, yards per attempt. Texter, go look it up. Tua's right up there, top 3 in all of those. He's not just throwing screens all game. He's letting the ball fly. Hence, the only touchdown they scored in the playoff game was a 55-yard bomb. That's what happened. Tua can throw the ball.
Which happened to be a great catch by Tyreek Hill, though.
Awesome
wasn't the greatest throw in the world.
Tom Brady. His best year, crazy to say, Hawk. Oh, Randy Moss is on my team. Now I throw for 50 touchdowns.
Right.
I'm going to throw for 35 no matter what. I can throw for 50 when Moss gets there. I'm not saying Tua is Tom Brady, but why did Tom Brady's numbers go up? Because he had Randy Moss. So to your point, I agree with you. But don't say he led the NFL in passing yards because of his weapons. He still has to throw the ball.
Because that argument would lead you to the conclusion that if you insert Mike White in that offense and you've got him under contract, it's not a lot of money. If you insert Mike White in there, he will have Tua's numbers. And I don't think you will.
Wouldn't.
You saw it last year. Teddy Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson. They didn't look like Tua when he was healthy last year.
So I don't, again, I'm not saying that Tyreek doesn't make a quarterback better, because he does. But I don't think having a great receiving core automatically makes a quarterback the leading passer in the league.
You talked about it. I forget the numbers. They were still impressive. This year was Patrick Mahomes' statistical worst year of his career.
Yeah.
Why? Because they skimped on his receiving core. Kadarius Toney and Raymond Rice, whatever the hell his name is, they're not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek comes down here and makes Tua look better. Tyreek left there, and Patrick Mahomes looked worse. Yes, it correlates.
But Patrick Mahomes' statistically bad year was over 4,000 yards passing, has a playoff win already this season. So you can't extrapolate, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to diminish what having a Tyreek Hill means or a Jalen Waddle, but you cannot extrapolate leading the league in passing by saying, oh, it's because of the receivers. Now, throw in all the variables. Decent protection, good head coaching. And again, I know this isn't the week to talk about it, but Mike McDaniel, his play calling at the beginning of the season was accounting for a lot of yards.
Yep.
So you throw in 2 good, healthy receivers when Hill and Waddle were healthy on both sides, good, inventive play calling. Then you throw in an accurate quarterback. All that adds up to it. But you can't diminish what Tua means in that recipe, in my opinion. Because then you could just plug and play any quarterback with decent receivers. But we've seen it. You don't get those results.
You won't. And even I could go on and on. What's the Steeler guy? George Pickens?
Yeah.
He's a monster. But Mason Rudolph's throwing him the ball, and he's never going to be a Pro Bowl receiver with that. So a receiver can make a quarterback, but also look at the great receivers in the league that have no quarterback, and they really can't go crazy because that guy can't get them the ball. So it's back and forth, Hawk. A great quarterback needs a great receiver, and you can do special things like Tua did. Not like you're saying, Hawk, over the last almost a month. It's hard to argue this, but let's see the season in totality. Over this season, Tua went crazy. And the receivers went crazy with Tua throwing in the ball. Tua went crazy with good receivers catching his balls. That's what happened.
Told you we'd have this solved by 6 o'clock. I think we might have this solved by 4 o'clock.
What happened?